Okay, great. Okay, so I am Danielle Brown, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Plusgrade. And today we're actually not going to spend most of our time on rail or other public transport. We're actually going to spend most of our time on air, hotel, and cruise, and really dig deep into their ancillaries and see what we can learn, what rail can learn from what they do in other ancillary spaces, and how much revenue that actually generates. So just a little bit about Plusgrade to begin with. We work with over 200 partners in the rail, cruise, hospitality, air, and financial services spaces. And we build ancillary revenue products that travelers will love. So anything to enhance the customer experience. And our main product offerings are upgrades, so upgrading your seat or upgrading your cabin, as well as seating, so the ability to block the seat next to you or perhaps block an exit row, as well as loyalty currency retailing, which is the direct sale of loyalty program currency, so points and miles, to the actual loyalty program members. All of our solutions are completely white labeled. It's really important that we believe that the transactions happen in the brand that the passengers actually want to interact with. And they're fully integrated. So we really deal with real-time bidding and real-time balance management. And the totality of our offerings are going to be delivering $5 billion in revenue to our partners this year alone. So we're really dealing with a huge market here. Okay, let's look at size of opportunity. So looking at the airline ancillary revenue market, it was big in 2013, almost 43 billion, but it got a lot bigger in the last 9-10 years. And what they're dealing with here is over 100 billion US dollars in ancillary revenue in 2022. This is growing already in 2023, and they're outpacing as well. So let's take a step back and really let's look at some of the information that we have on rail so that we can set the stage. And when looking at rail with a few of our rail partners, what we know is there is already a very strong demand for upgrades in the rail industry. In fact, when you compare the conversion on offers of a rail passenger to an airline passenger, a rail passenger is 4 times more likely to put in a bid upgrade offer than someone in air. So there's a demand there already. And when you dig a little bit deeper, actually, within the first 3 months of launching with our program, a rail partner actually increased their incremental revenue from upgrades by 60%, which actually 4x'd the forecast that either side had. So all to set the stage and say the demand is there and the demand for wanting to experience an upgraded service is there. Okay, so we've seen that air revenues and ancillaries are growing. And because that's a way more mature business, the way that we grow that is actually a little bit different. So I'm going to talk about 4 recent strategies that we've implemented to help grow the air ancillary space. So let's talk about the upgrades for a second and the actual bidding process. Our classic upgrade product is we open up a bidding window. Then the passenger can submit this bid and can continue to increase their bid if they feel like it throughout this bidding window. And that works really well for us. Once the bid is done, they get or once the window closes, they get an email from us saying your upgrade was accepted or not. So we experimented with a little bit of urgency here. And we said, instead of doing that, why don't we actually give people feedback on their bids? So when you now put in a bid, what you get back is an alert if someone outbids you, so that you can then choose, oh, I'm going to upgrade, and I'm going to upgrade my bid actually to make sure that I actually get upgraded. And what we saw really quickly as soon as we implemented this was a 20% increase in yield just for giving that immediate feedback on where you were in the purchasing journey. Another thing that we noticed is we did some experiments around timing of communication. So if we saw that someone went up to the storefront and looked and considered an upgrade, what we would do is send them a reminder, like a cart abandoner email. And we typically sent this, we gave them time to process, we typically sent this around 8-9 hours after the initial view of the page. What we saw was a 119% increase in those submitted offers when we moved that communication to 1 hour post the view. So really more than a double of offers when we moved the urgency there or the timeliness of the message. Another thing that we did is started to experiment with routes that were maybe underbooked. And we started to experiment with very small discounts on the upgrades that we were offering on those routes. And what we saw on those, again, underbooked routes, a 55% increase in bids. And then finally, and this one was perhaps the most simple one, is with one of our airline partners on their properties, they had that ability to upgrade. The call to action when you logged on was actually below the fold. All we did was move that call to action up to above the fold on that homepage, and we had a 2.5 times increase in offers submitted. So these really small experimentation points that can lead to really massive changes in the way those ancillaries are consumed by passengers. Okay, so let's stick with airline, and actually let's move to the loyalty space a little bit more. And in the loyalty part of the business, when we first started retailing this currency, it was actually over 20 years ago, we really went out with, for the most part, mass offers. So you can buy this currency and get a 100% bonus or get a 30% discount or whatever it was. But then about 9 years ago, we really started to make a huge investment in our data science and analytics capabilities. And what we saw was this intense personalization of offers had a dramatic increase in the revenue that we were able to get from loyalty currency retailing. So with just an increase in the data from an aggregate perspective, this is like member attributes, we saw our revenues on that personalization increase by 43%. And what's more, when we moved to more of a transactional data set, so really closely saying this traveler actually bought this on this day or flew at this time or whatever it happened to be, and built those models on that specific data, it actually increased the results by another 17%. Okay, so what were some of the ways that we actually decided to do with that data? And we've been experimenting, as I said, for 10 years. One of the most recent ones that we did saw some really interesting results. And what we know is that the closer a loyalty program member is to redeeming a reward, the less likely they are to need a bigger discount to buy. So we wanted to incent members with lower points to see if they would be most likely to buy. And so what we did was we said, okay, if a member balance is really close to their redemption level, let's give them a 30% discount. And we had about 5 different levels of discounts here, so that if you were really far away from being able to get a redemption, let's motivate you and give you a really big discount. I think our maximum discount was 40%. And what you can see here is just this really huge increase in the buyer behavior here. So for average transaction size overall, that increased by 42%. Our conversion rate increased by over 200%, as did revenue per visit. And the other 2 cuts here you could see is that was more pronounced on someone who'd never purchased currency before. So really using discounting to motivate that behavior, but not giving away discounts if you don't have to, and really personalizing is very important in the success here. All right, let's look at the engagement with loyalty currency. So this is a hospitality loyalty currency retailing example. And what's important here is this shows us that it's not just the investment in the ancillary that the passenger makes that drives revenue. It's actually engaging with that ancillary that changes their behavior in the program or the brand itself. So the way to read this is we looked at a whole bunch of loyalty program members with this specific example. We then separated some people who had never purchased before. And then what we said was, okay, let's then not just compare those two, but let's look at those first-time buyers, split out some people who look exactly like them but just never bought, and follow them for 12 months after and see what happened. And what we found was actually quite shocking. So if you compare those two, the people who had purchased actually had 46% more stays than the people who hadn't. They actually had 121% more earned points, so that means their stays were more valuable. And they earned more points throughout, so not just with hotel stays, 5 times. So this is an increase in lifetime value just from an ancillary transaction. Another really quick experiment here is we really started digging into the hospitality ancillary space. And we actually purchased a company called Upstay, which is an award-winning hospitality ancillaries platform. And just a really quick experimentation here on communication is we experimented with sending SMSs rather than emails, and that actually increased our conversion by 30%. So it's important to go to talk to your passengers where they actually want to be. And again, this is another one of those that really talks about the value of the ancillary in the brand at large. So this is an example from cruise. What we did was we looked at a whole group of passengers who had paid to upgrade their last booking. And we said, well, how did this impact their behavior on the next booking? And what we found was really, really, really impactful. So 23% of the travelers who actually bid to upgrade or who received an upgrade on their next booking bid for an even higher class cabin. So that means they were willing to spend, and the next time they were willing to spend even more. The other one I really want to point out here is 18% of them who actually upgraded, not from an ancillaries perspective, but on their actual cabin booking, booked for the fare that they upgraded to. So we gave them a little bit of a taste of that richer experience, and all of a sudden they saw the value and their ticket booking price went up for the next. Okay, so I have 1 minute to wrap ourselves up here. Key takeaways, so just a couple of things that you can hopefully take away with you when you leave this room is ancillaries are huge. Other verticals are doing it. There's an opportunity here for rail especially. Upgrades are a proven source of revenue in rail. And just remember your loyalty programs and see how that can integrate into your ancillary strategy. It's wise to think of them as one unit rather than two separate. From a cross-industry perspective, air upgrades are huge. And so what we need to learn from them is this really mature test and learn continuous improvement. A loyalty currency retailing, just because it's actually more mature, really excels in data and personalization. Hospitality, I just clicked that. Hospitality is another rapidly growing ancillary market to keep an eye on because they are a little bit behind air in growth, so that's something that rail can really model itself on. And cruise really shows us that once travelers get a taste of that ancillary, that upgrade, they really consider spending a lot more money in their direct booking with the brands. So that's all I have for you today. We do have a booth if you have any more questions. And for those of you who are around tomorrow, please do come by and see my colleague Chris Engel. He is very entertaining. He has a panel on the resurgence of the night train. So thank you very much. I appreciate your attention.